What's up? Hello. Heard y'all had free candy here. Yeah, man, just get in the back of my truck here real quick. We'll get you some free candy, no problem. What's up, everybody? Good morning on this blessed Monday. I'm just kidding. It's not a great Monday. It's also cold. It's very cold in Utah. It's starting to get a lot colder. Sorry, I'm trying to mess with my microphone so it doesn't just fall. And I apologize. I can't do anything about this. That's going to be really annoying to me, but hopefully it won't be too bad for you. Welcome. So just a couple updates on the channel real quick, and then we'll get started in here. So first of all, it's Thanksgiving week. I am traveling out of town on Wednesday. So, I mean, there hasn't been a whole lot of content recently just because of World Cup. And I've been honestly just taking a step back. There's really no other reason that I haven't been doing anything other than I just like a breath of fresh air. But I'm going to have this video out today. And then I've got another video that I'm going to stream tomorrow. And I think I'm going to try to get a third one out on coaching. I think I might do a masterclass on coaching this week. So I'm not sure I'll stream that though, but just be on the lookout for that because I'm actually really excited about that subject. I feel like I've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback on my approaches to like different sorts of attacks or things to do in any particular points. And so I want to try to share what I know. I don't know, I'm obviously not like an amazing coach at all, but I want to share at least my philosophy because I think it will help a lot of people. So I'm excited for that. But again, at the top of this, thank you so much to everybody who has re-upped their subscriptions to the channel, whether you're a supporter or an SVP. It really, really means a lot. The only thing that sucks about YouTube is that those things automatically get updated. And a lot of times I don't see that because it's not notifying me live on stream. So it just happens on the channel. So, I mean, in the last 2 days or so, these are facts supporter for 5 months. Thank you. Brandon Reed re-upping his supporter membership for 7 months. Based, I don't know if it's a rebus or a rubus or however you say that. You'll have to tell me. But thanks, buddy, for the 1 month, man. I really do appreciate that. And welcome to the mod team. And then Meat Butter, 4 months, man. Also, that is a great name. And again, thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. So top of this, thank you. Really, really means a lot. It does help me out a lot. I do have another video that's going to be edited that's independent of me that I'm pretty excited about. And then I think that's pretty much it. I do have a World Cup video that I'm going to be working on, just kind of like recapping the season and especially the event. But I don't think that's definitely not happening before Thanksgiving. So, but hopefully I'll have a few videos from that, like some shorts and stuff. But thanks to everybody who's tuning in right now. I have the flu and same in Arizona, and it is 64 degrees. 64. It's like I woke up, it was 25 degrees outside. So hello from Thailand. Welcome, buddy. Welcome. All right. Let's get started in this. This is the MXBL layout coming up. I actually don't. It's a December 3rd, I think is what I saw. Let's see. Yeah, it's not this weekend, but it's the next. So I might have actually gotten to this layout a little bit late. I think the first practice happened this weekend, I think, or maybe I'm not sure because I think the layout may have dropped yesterday. But in either case, interested to see what this layout looks like. Also, I hate the white accents. It makes it really hard to see. And if anybody has any connections or ties to any event organizers for the MXBL, can somebody please tell them to upload a new logo? Like the MXBL logo, there is literally nothing usable. So it's really hard to like promote and make this visible. All right. So interesting layout so far. I have not actually seen this layout. I saw a picture of it for a second while I was making the thumbnail, but I have no idea anything about this layout. So these are probably my initial reactions for as far as the zones are concerned, which is interesting because there's so many gaps here. This is massive. This is a huge gap. So let's take a look heads up and see what we're working with. A lot of laydown stuff. This is a very low field. Like if you guys look at how low all of this is. This is all just like crouch layout stuff. We'll see how this actually plays out. But okay, so back center to back center, you can obviously see how people are lining up. It is a little offsetted in favor of, we'll call this the Dorito side. I'm not sure how people will resolve that. Also, I hate beams into Doritos because of this gap. This gap is really stupid, but also you can't, this does not do anything for you other than to like get you to crawl into the Dorito. And I just don't know if that is really that interesting. So, but that's okay. I'm not here to like dump on the layout. It's not my job to do that, but just if you're curious, I don't like that. I think it's really silly. Okay. Interesting bunker. It's also interesting that they laid it down this way to make it even lower as opposed to just like a normal. So unless the guns up layout is wrong, that's actually like on its side. It's not technically on its like bottom. So that's interesting. You obviously have a really solid blind here to shoot anything cross field, using the can to shoot cross. You are pinched out a little bit, and I would suspect that if people are trying to do that, you could get pinched out pretty easily, either by the guy heads up and or the guy running out this way. But just something to be aware of. And then if we keep running out to this corner, we're going to call this side the Dorito side, even though it's probably more of a snake than this. But there's just more Doritos here. So if you run out to the Dorito corner, huge gaps. But if you actually take a knee right here, the only gap you really have to work with is this one right here so far, it looks like. Unless you risk over the top, and then obviously you have more visibility here. I don't suspect people will do that. But this is interesting. And you do have a crossfield shot here, but man, trying to well, I guess actually you could get out here pretty quickly. So that's actually not a bad cross shot at all to do this. So you could, as we've seen pretty common in these sorts of NXL layouts, you could cross it up. The number 2s could off the break. I bet you could also shoot heads up. So it just provides lots of options to change up how you want to approach shooting people. And then again, as we run out to the corner, I mean, it's pretty normal. There's probably not a lot of really safe gaps to like come off the start box from and just stay there to shoot. You could do it and delay. So for example, if I was the number 2 and I took a step off of the start box and delayed for a second and shot here, I could do that. Or I could shoot here. This would probably this would be too much of a delay. I'd have to stay here long to shoot paint into here and actually hit somebody. And that's probably not super safe. But you do have options to do this and then kick out either to the corner or to that can. So, but my point is, I don't think anybody's going to be shooting at you from that start box running into the corner, because if they are either shooting at you from here, which you should probably beat them. You should probably get to the corner about the same time that they get into this can, kind of. And then this guy, if he was stopping in the middle in the open, which shouldn't happen because there's an easy counter, obviously, over the top or even a crossfield shot as you run out to the snake side. So just be aware of that. Hello from Iran, 9:30 p.m. here. Hey, Nima, hello, welcome. I don't know if we've had anybody at least say that they've been watching from Iran, so welcome. All right, looking straight heads up then. It's not a true tape, so you actually can't see heads up, and you don't even really have that many blind shots from corner to corner. So as long as you kind of low wrap or lap wrap tight. Now, again, as I always preface, your mileage may vary at the actual event or at your local layout, right? I'm just evaluating it according to what Guns Up is telling me, and none of my local fields are setting up this layout, so I have no idea. But there's nobody... Actually, that's not true. This can stop you. So this can will stop you trying to get up into this first Dorito. The center can could actually as well. So you have 2 stops that will prevent you from moving up that are probably more common than any others. There obviously is this tower as you start moving up. I'm going to change colors. As you start moving up the field on the snake side, there are other bunkers that could shoot you. But I would imagine in the breakout, the only 2 people you'd have to worry about are these 2 cans. The back center I don't think can stop you, but he could possibly lob shots. Yeah, well, they probably could. They could probably lob shots here. So a lot of stoppage from the corner into that first Dorito, it looks like. I would actually probably confidently say 3 different bunkers can stop you. And we'll look at those here in just a second, or at least more detail when we talk about what we'll call the Dorito side. But now looking at the snake side, walking the back line, again, off the box, you actually have a pretty interesting blind right here. So if you stand right here using the pins in front of you, you do obviously have this gap. You could either shoot into or be shot at from, but you also have a really solid shot onto the number 2 on the Doritos side that you could shoot at, which is pretty interesting. And it doesn't look like you are going to get stuck breaking out. So unless somebody stops here and shoots heads up, which is probably a counter to this move, unless somebody stops here and shoots at you heads up while you're standing in this blind, you're pretty safe to break out and get into your primary after you do that delay. Again, this move would be a counter to that. So lots of things to consider. Yeah, lots of things to consider. That's a hard thing to scout too. You can't really tell if the number 2 on the snake side is going to shoot heads up or shoot cross field, and they might do both. They might shoot heads up for a second and then shoot cross, or shoot cross heads up, whatever. I would suspect that this move is going to be pretty common throughout the tournament, or as we get further into the tournament, the more common this crossfield shot becomes. I don't imagine every team will do this crossfield shot, but as those teams start to do that, then I think the number 2s are going to start shooting at each other to prevent that. Because once that happens, this move is really dangerous to break out of. All right. Looking now at this mini cake going out to the snake side. It is a little weird that the snake is on my left. Normally the Doritos are on my left when I walk these fields, so let me actually swap this because this, for my brain, will make more sense. So as we go out to this cake now, you obviously can see each other, which is kind of tough. But the home can't really see you unless they come over the top. So that's kind of nice. But the question will be, where is the number 2 going to go? Because that either means the number 2 has to delay in this dead box for a while, double up the home in some way, or you force out your snake guy pretty far. Which if you do that, yeah, where's the number 2 going to go? We're going to look at that here in a second. All right, so we run the back line some more. All of this is just heads up territory. This is just shooting back at each other as you're running out to this corner. You don't really have any crossfield shots I would think you'd need to worry about right here. I don't think this is much of a threat to you as you start, because as people are both running out to their respective corners, essentially, as you're running out here, and they're running out here. First of all, this is shorter. This is a much shorter run than this one is. So I don't think you have to worry about anybody shooting you doing this, potentially. It just depends on how slow you are. So if you're real slow or you delay at all here, and this guy's putting his paint crossfield, I don't think you have to worry about that. But it's paintball. Anything is possible. Now let's look at the corner here. Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of people that will shoot at you. Like this guy. Oops. This guy, as he runs up into this tower, could shoot at you pretty easily. So I would say that because there's not a lot of safe bunkers to shoot at you from on this snake side, I would think, like, for example, if I'm the number 2 and I come out to this tower and run up and I'm shooting at the guy who's running to the corner, look at how exposed I am. Like, I am so exposed to any shots coming back at me as this guy runs out that if it were me, I would almost always vie for shooting back at this tower guy, which I suspect is where the number 2 will play quite a bit on the snake. It is a little more dangerous if the number 2 comes to this cake and stands up over the top. This is a bit harder of a shot. So for those of you who are actually playing this event, my suggestion would be that practice running out to the corner and shooting a target just over the top of this cake, and also shooting a target that's like right here in the open. I would do lots of reps doing that. Just so that way, if you go out to the corner, because here's the thing. You either can run out to the corner with your gun down and essentially concede any pressure that you would apply back to the guys shooting at you, which essentially just like increases your death, like your chances of dying. Whereas if you actually shoot back at them, you bring those percentages down to about 50-50. I always call these 50-50s. It might not actually be, but I would suspect that if you practice running out to the corner and you can hit a target here and here pretty consistently, here and here pretty consistently, your chances of survival are about 50-50. At the very least, you will trade with somebody, which is what you're aiming for in that situation, right? So try not to make that corner run with your gun down, as my suggestion. Sometimes you might have to, but I don't know if there's ever a time which I would suggest that. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's look at the snake side first. Let's look at this right side here real quick. And then we'll go look at the Dorito side. So again, you have this dead zone, which I think is probably pretty strong. I would say that your first 3 balls should probably be here, right at the edge of the can, and then you should dump the rest of your paint here off the break. And in order for them to increase their survivability, they will have to probably shoot back at you. So this becomes a cross field 50-50. Where is that gap? This one right here. So this shot, I think, is going to be... And actually, this is a stronger shot for this person. This is a much stronger shot for the snake side person because they have so little to go, whereas this person has a lot of distance to cover. Which usually means when this is the case where one side has a stronger crossfield shot than the other side does, it usually means that that side is going to be much harder to push. So we'll be curious to see if you are rewarded for actually surviving, making it out there. Because it is also possible that if this shot is much easier to make than this guy's is, and even if you do survive, you don't really have great kills in the Doritos, then why are we risking our bodies out there? So we'll find out here in a second if that's the case. Oh, I said... Whatever. That is... Okay, my left is the Dorito side, my right is the snake side. So let's keep going to the snake. Again, you have a heads-up shot if you want... immediately to come off the box and start shooting heads up. That's also one option. And you do have a little bit of a wider shot out here to shoot anybody who might be running to the corner. But I would suspect that a crossfield shot would be better by taking a knee right here, using this can in front of me. So that's probably a better shot to make in this case. But it does look like, as I start to talk, that the number 3 will be here, the number 2 will be playing somewhere right here, and the number 2 on the other side will be playing somewhere right here, using kind of these dead zones as channels of survival. Again, you could always just like go out right away, but these dead zones offer a lot of options out of, right? So that's nice. Continuing on then, if we were the number 2, then the other option is to come out to this blind right here, which actually offers quite a bit of protection from the middle, an insane amount of protection from the middle. And now you have a lot more openings to shoot anybody running wide, to the corner at least. I don't think you're going to see many people taking this Dorito off break, personally. It's possible. That's a really hard bunker to make if you're doing it with your gun down, because this gap is just super, super strong. And you can shoot pretty much anything over the top right here, and it's going to be a threat to that guy. If you do this right, if you come off the start box right here, then you're actually pretty safe from the crossfield shot. The only gap that you would have to worry about is this, and that's going to be insanely hard to shoot you from. So the only alternative is somebody shooting heads up. So maybe come out right here. You'd have to find this line, but it looks like it's in sync with the edge of this tower. So if you run out, stop at this tower, and then shoot anybody heads up, you're probably pretty safe from anybody running crossfield. That's a pretty hard shot to hit for somebody to shoot in that little gap as they're running out and killing you here. So something to be aware of. So much empty space in this layout at a glance, that is. Yeah, absolutely based. There's a lot. So then if you choose to run up, this is where you now start to, if you delay too long and they get established in this can, this is where you start to run into issues, right? Because if you delay and then run up, that guy's going to be the first person to chop you up. If you do it right away, if you run as you shoot, you're probably okay. Again, that's kind of dicey, but it is a possibility. And that's probably what I would suggest. Again, the other option is to actually come out here. Well, actually, I don't know if I would do that. I think I'd probably just opt to be in this dead zone right here. So I'd opt to be in this dead zone, and then I would read and react based on this. The only thing that you trade, the only thing that sucks if you do this as the number 2 that you trade, is you trade any pressure that you were originally applying to this guy. So the alternative might be that you have your number 2, or excuse me, yeah, your number 2 would, I hate that the Doritos are down. I'm so used to the snake being down. So the alternative that you might have is that the number 2 is here and the number 1 is here. Again, I don't know if that's a good idea, but it's a possibility. And then this is what you have, right? It could be really anywhere. So now the number 1 is playing a read and react based on what's in front of him and what happens. And then, you know, if the guy breaks out to the corner, you can respond in kind, or you can push up this way, just based on what you see heads up. And the number 2 behind you is still applying pressure and coverage on that Dorito side can. I think that shot is almost mandatory from this guy at this point, because it's such an easy shot to hit that I don't see there's a reason why you don't shoot it. Okay, so then if we go up to this tower, pretty standard heads up stuff. You have massive zone control if anybody gets into the corner trying to move up the Dorito side, any inside routes as well. So this tower is super strong. Let's see. If you play low, you're not really pinched out from the Dorito side. Oh, excuse me, I keep saying Dorito, I mean snake. So again, this is the snake side. This is the Dorito side, is what we're calling. So from the Doritos, you actually don't really have any issues, anybody getting up the field until they get to this mini W. If they get to the mini wall, then that's their first rewarded kill if you come here. You do have to get a little lower if they get into that Dorito, because they might shoot you in your head. Or you can just play really tight into this bunker and you should be okay. So otherwise you might need to get a little lower. So interesting bunker. If we play, let's play the pin now. If we come up and play the pin, that's actually a pretty solid move. So I almost wonder. Sorry, I'm just thinking real quick. This isn't a terrible move either, for you to like run up to using this pin and shooting either side of you, right? This left side or right side. This if you move up to this pin, you have a lot more visibility on the snake side of the field. But if you do that, and then you can dive into this tower, and then you can control this side of the field pretty easily. So that's actually not a bad move at all, I would say. And then if we go out to this mini wall, let's see first of all the route and how hard it is to make. So that inside shot kind of sucks. And the pin is the guy who's going to kill you. So yeah, this pin is kind of a mandatory zone control. But what I'm finding out is that if you target the number 2 on this side, you give up that route if you're not careful. The only alternative is to actually initially shoot first right here and then shoot here. But I think that might not work. You might be too late to hit this guy if you do that. So that really just comes down to a decision you have to make. Or, ooh, even better, the alternative is actually to do this, is to shoot this shot. That's really, really strong. So that protects that mini wall move really, really handily. So that tells me that I still think that the strongest play off the box is for the number 2s to shoot crossfield. That's what it looks like. I think for this guy who plays the pin, shoots cross. This guy who plays the can, shoots cross. Your biggest concern is getting contained in those crosses off the break. Because if you're shooting cross for the runners, if you're shooting cross off the break for the runners, and then the number 2s on the opposite side shoot heads up at you, then you are in a lot of trouble breaking out of that. Actually, that's not where the shot is, but yeah, now you're in trouble breaking out as your, like, essentially your secondary move. So that would be the counter to that, in my opinion. But then let's imagine going to this little Dorito. So if we run out, that pin is still a problem, but that's a hard shot. This is more of a reasonable route, right? This is where you're gonna hit some pressure, is in this gap right here as you're running out. But if you survive this gap, well, we also have this dead zone here, we've said. But the difference between paint coming here from the cross shot versus paint coming here for the cross shot is meaningful enough that if they're shooting low for this shot, you will survive this one, and vice versa, right? If you come out wide, and they were shooting for this, you're totally in the green. So that means that this guy has a big decision to make. So if you see, and the problem is it's really hard to scout, right? Because oftentimes how we line up at the box is like, I mean, if you want to make it really difficult to scout what you're doing, then this is how you line up at the box almost always. Your number ones are going to line up in between your number twos and threes. And the reason is because even if you want to run to the corner, you can do so while your guy takes kind of an L route up, right? But in this case, if we line up this way, even if this guy's in like a runner's position with his gun down, we don't know if he's going to go here or we don't know if they're going to go here. So whereas otherwise, sometimes you can kind of figure out like, oh, they're lining up this way. It means this guy's going to go to the corner because he's uncomfortable going in front of his number two, right? Usually if people line up that way, it's like, oh, snake corner in this case. It's possible for them to just do this, but anyway. So my recommendation, just as a side note, always where possible, line up like this at the start box. Okay. So yeah, this is actually a much more solid route than I realized, or rather, it's a much more doable route, I think, as long as people are shooting cross. If this guy shoots heads up, I think that would be the adjustment. So I think by default, the number twos are going to cross on either side, and then as the tournament progresses, if people keep surviving this move off the break, I think that's where you force the number twos to look heads up, or you force some kind of like other gun to shoot heads up, and if that's the case, then you relieve pressure for your number two, especially on this side of the field. Okay, so for example, sorry, just to re-illustrate this really fast, I think the tournament will start with these people shooting cross. And then when people pick up on that, because the cross-field shot is a little bit harder to hit in some cases, if people start making this, then I think what you see is an adjustment where this person starts to shoot heads up. And because of that, you don't need a second gun here. You're going to shoot this gun heads up, and that's going to make this move out here a lot more survivable. That's going to make that move a lot safer because the heads up shot is not as solid. It's not as wide, at least. It still sucks, but it's a lot more doable. But the other alternative is you actually kick out one side. So for example, instead of the number three lining up here, which is the assumption we've been making, we now are actually going to put our number three here and have him take over and ensure that crossfield shot like we've been shooting the whole tournament. And now we're going to put our number two here somewhere to shoot for that shot and force our number one outwards on this side. So that's the other alternative. If you still want to cover the same jobs, if you still want to cover the same crossfield jobs, then essentially your number three is going to be doing that. This is the number two, and then your number one goes out somewhere. Okay, does that make sense? So also a possibility, which in my mind, I see these things as developments, right? I don't really see teams, you can, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't see teams like forcing their number three into a dangerous position and kicking out one side unless they absolutely have to, or unless it's very obvious that is the play that people make on this layout. So as you scout, as you play this layout, if you find that people are taking this bunker off the rip in your practices, then I would say kick out your number three to play this dead zone right here, shooting the crossfield shot, and then kick out your number two to come play this heads up gap, right? Playing in this gap right here, shooting for that runner, and then force your number one outwards, some like risking somewhere outside. So, all right. I think we've kind of exhausted that. So let's now move into the angles of the Dorito 1. So, or right. No, this is the snake. Excuse me. Oh, man, I hate layouts that do this. So this is a gap that's going to be hard to get out of. Even though you actually are in a better bunker than they are, that mini cake is hard to fight from. Just always remember that if you win, if you beat them here, if you shoot and they flinch, you should always shoot right here, right after. Okay, if you win the outside and a mini cake, the only alternative they have to stopping you is over the top, which is a very obvious move to make. So just be aware of that. If you don't get out, if you take too long getting out of this, then now you have the tower guy to really worry about. And that tower guy is going to be incredibly oppressive. Getting out of this bunker, if there's a tower guy, is going to be really, really hard to do. So the only exception to that will be if that's where their number two is. If their number two is here and their number one is anywhere in this zone, then you're fine because you can blind out the guy in front of you, right? Like if I get low enough, this guy heads up can't see me as long as they're somewhere in the backfield. And then this is the only guy I have to beat is in the tower. And then if let's see, am I rewarded with anything here? Nope. I am really, and I'm in a terrible bunker for this mini wall. So we're already figuring that that's like 50-ish bunker on the Dorito side is incredibly strong at just chopping up everything cross field. Whereas the alternative is not really the case. Like I can shoot this gap if I'm in this little Dorito to like protect myself if I'm stuck, but I would not want to be in this bunker if that guy's in that mini wall. If that is the case, maybe my move is to come here because that provides a little bit more survivability, right? Now that guy can't see me. So if you find that if you're in this little Dorito on the snake side and you hear 50 Dorito or something, then maybe your move is to get here if you're still stuck. So otherwise, maybe that's just a route that we should consider anyway. So if you are stuck and you're having a hard time getting into this little snake beam, like you're having a hard time going this way, because you're trying to wrap and fight here, maybe the alternative is to wrap, surprise him, get him to flinch, and then come here. The only thing that sucks is if they are in the 50 and you make this move, then they're wrap city all day, man. They're just going to be wrapping on you really hard, and you have no control of the tape at that point. It forces whoever's playing behind you, which they are probably going to be here, it forces them to do this, and that you're dead if you do that. And if you're here, you might have a chance to survive that, but what it tells me is this bunker and this bunker are pretty important, but we'll find out here in a second, because this is also not a true tape on the snake side either. So I can't actually see this guy on their side wrapping very well at all. I could take a step out, but that's really risky. All right, in the snake cake now, this is really small on the guns up layout. This is a bunker you could hold the tape from. But I think any time where you have to hold the tape from a lay down position, essentially, is really bad, personally. But sometimes that's all you're given. So are we rewarded with anything? You do have a crossfield shot on the first Dorito, which this is a pretty decent shot for you. Because you actually, like you can see, unless these bunkers are scrunched a little bit more, you have a little bit of this valley right here that you can just drop paint into. And you will force anybody in the Dorito to play on the outside of their bunker, which they will be anyway. But so you don't get a guaranteed kill, but you do have a lot of strong pressure, in my opinion, on that Dorito guy. The only issue is just that if you are trying to fight a heads-up battle and shoot a crossfield shot, this bunker is incredibly pinched by those same angles, right? These angles are great for you, but they're also really good for them to pinch you out. So just be aware. Then if we go into this little Dorito, this is where it's kind of a puzzle. You have to assess where the number one is. Are they still in the corner or are they matched? And if so, you're fine. But if they're anything wider than that, like that little snake laydown, if they're anything wider than that, then this bunker becomes kind of awkward when you try to low wrap on it, right? If you're trying to wrap and go by either shooting the tower or this mini wall, for example, then you are incredibly uncomfortable by whoever's on the outside of you. So this little Dorito, that snake Dorito is kind of uncomfortable. Wait, what was going to stop us from here? So if we're here, interesting. Okay, so this route is kind of the push route. It looks like it's much easier to go from this Dorito to the 50 than it is to go from here to the 50, in my opinion. You both can do it, but the gaps between the snake feel a lot wider than the gaps from the Dorito do, right? You're a little closer to that Dorito. You're a lot closer to that wedge when you try to make the move from the Dorito. So to me, this seems like the bunker you go to hold, and this is the bunker you go. So if you want to hold people, you go here, and if you want to push, you go here. This is push, this is hold. Does that make sense? So, but you can assess whether you push or hold in this bunker. So this is a pretty solid bunker to go to and read and react. Because if you, for example, if you get here, if you're the number one and you get here and you lose your number two dies, and that you're playing a 1v2 heads up, there's two people still alive at heads up from you, then and you're in this little Dorito, then my first option would probably be to go here if you can. Now, if you do that, you concede essentially all pressure you have on pushing in front of you. The only exception to that is if you kill your guy heads up, because then you can start wrapping and shooting the guy that's on the middle. But otherwise, if you have your number two behind you that's still alive, this is probably the route to make. That would be my suggestion. Because again, I think this is a really awkward bunker to try and push up from. The only way you do that is if you have a Tiger 1 or Tiger 2, I would say. I'm saying number 1 and number 2, but this is a Tiger. That's a T. So things to consider. Again, that's my first impression. That's what it looks like. So then if we get into, are you rewarded on the outside low wrap? You are not. You can start applying pressure to the home guy, but it's just pressure. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to kill him. Are you rewarded if you get to this Dorito? You're not. And in fact, if they do come up over the top, which I don't suppose they will in that little beam, you are kind of in trouble. And if they stand tall in this Dorito and shoot down at you, you're also kind of in trouble. That's a pretty tall shot, but it does exist, it looks like. So snake side's kind of hard to push, it looks like. Anything else? You're kind of rewarded with this can shot. I actually think that this guy in the can will die to a pack hit if they're still there. And anybody in the middle, right? If there's anybody in this can, they're dead for sure. So this mini Dorito, is that the same shot here? Kind of. You have actually kind of the same shot in a blind in this cake as these cans. So if I were you, if you take this outside cake route into this snake cake, those would probably be my first shots. I would probably shoot here just to make sure, and then I would shoot blind shots right here just to try and pick off anybody who's playing sloppy or looking on the inside on those bunkers. That would probably be my first move. And then again, if I'm in this Dorito as an alternative, I would do the same thing. I would definitely shoot for these guys first. I wouldn't probably wrap any harder than that. I wouldn't wrap any farther to this tower unless I had to shoot this guy and trying to find a more creative route, which is that center-ish tower. But otherwise, I'm just going to wrap and try to get up into this wedge. When I do, I am still not getting a free kill in this Dorito, which is telling me that this is a really strong bunker to hold from, but I am going to get a kill from here. We are actually going to kill each other pretty commonly. So, which sucks because this is a Dorito, we'll call this like the 30-yard line, maybe 40-yard line, whereas this is like essentially the 50 for the snake. So it takes you getting to the 50 just to shoot this guy, whereas it only takes them to get to that 30/40 for them to shoot you, which is pretty crappy. It means that the Doritos are probably going to be a hard there's a lot of decisions you have to make as a Dorito player. You can either decide, do I shoot heads up and keep moving, or do I shoot cross field and kind of pluck out the snake side? Which when one person's making those decisions just puts a lot of pressure on that player to play smart. So, but just that's interesting to note. As long as nobody's heads up, 1 second. As long as nobody's heads up, you're good to come here and wrap and ignore those Doritos entirely. You do have a kill on the 50 if they go here, but again, these are like trades, right? If you two are looking at each other, you're going to trade with each other. You are definitely rewarded with a corner kill right here. You're definitely rewarded with this can, and you're definitely rewarded with that can. So I should say that you potentially have 4 kills here, 4 kill targets, by being here, this can, and this can. We're ignoring this bunker because that guy needed to die before we made this move. So those are pretty strong, and then you have a ton of pressure on this Dorito guy as well. So this is a really good bunker. You are rewarded quite heavily if you make it here on the inside. Otherwise, if you wrap to move, you're now probably going to kill this Dorito guy for sure. So this one bunker is pretty strong, and the best part about this bunker right here is that you blind out everybody that's essentially in these gaps. You don't blind out the corner, but anybody in these bunkers are going to have a hard time seeing you if you're playing right here. So in this wedge, that's pretty good because you got a lot of creativity either here or here. You can blow wrap, get up into this bunker, or you can look on the inside from your side. So that's pretty solid. Let's then look over at the Dorito side now. So again, we've kind of looked at this gap a lot already, but you have this little blind here that you can either choose. This is a shot. This is definitely an opportunity. And I think you kind of have to put your first 3 balls here. Now that I say this, I think you put your first 3 balls here and then you hold this zone. And then you zone control this. But this is shooting these shots here is what's going to protect you from playing this gap. And so that tells us that as the number 2 on the opposite side, yeah, like I said, our first few shots need to be here and then fanning out. But if they stop in this gap, you just keep your gun there. So these two are probably going to shoot at each other a lot this weekend, those crossfield shots. Otherwise, you could shoot heads up. I don't know if you really should, but you could. Again, if you force guns heads up, that's also an opportunity. So it does exist. I just think that the cross is much better. But actually, now that I say this, you can easily target this guy. You can target that guy pretty strong. So if this guy, for example, if your number 2 shoots heads up and then this guy shoots cross, that's a really, really dangerous spot to survive. These are from the number 2s. So if you find that this guy is going here every time and he's kind of not doing his job, he's like shooting heads up or something, like wide heads up, these are the 2 guns that I would target on him. And if you can kill this guy off the break every point, then what that means is your routes on the outside, your routes into these bunkers are a lot safer because this guy across is dead. So let's keep going. Huge gap. Again, we already know this. Huge gap to survive out here. And then this is a massive gap. I just am like so blown away by how big this is. That is so big. And what sucks is if you want to go to the corner from here, you kind of have to retreat a little bit, which just is slightly awkward. You can't actually see each other heads up from these cans, which is interesting. So, but you do have insane zone control here. I mean, it's so massive. NPPL size gaps. Yeah, this is insane. These gaps are thick, let me tell you. Inside shots, like we already said, that Dorito, that baby Dorito is a huge pressure to you if you stay in this can. So you're actually kind of forced to play on the outside of your bunker if they're in that little Dorito. This is going to be a huge death trap for people. So what that tells me is this is a high priority bunker to get to. If you can get to this bunker, it almost eliminates this guy if he's still there. So excuse me, that's this bunker. So my suggestion would be get here and try to work your way up. Obviously, we want to get to the 50 as fast as possible, but like getting to this bunker really quickly, it will eliminate this guy really fast. And does he eliminate the other one? Did we talk about this already? I think we did. I think we already established. So that Dorito can't see you as well here in this corner. But from the corner now, we don't really have a true tape. In order to actually hold this, we have to step out a little bit. But we can wrap shooting the can from the Dorito corner. We can shoot this back center, and we can shoot this can that's kind of up on the field a little bit. Otherwise, if we go low, again, those are the same bunkers that are going to stop us from making this move. If we come here, and now that I'm seeing this, actually, I think that this is actually pretty safe, holding this tape. I actually think the snake cake is stronger than the Dorito. I think you actually apply more pressure as the snake against this Dorito guy than the Dorito guy does to the snake. Because in order for me to hold this angle, I expose myself and potentially my loader to so many different bunkers. And if I don't control the inside and I'm forced outside, well, now I have to essentially get really low and play like essentially behind my gun heads up. I have these 2 people that I have to really worry about. So, and because again, I'm trying to like dodge that paint that's coming cross field. So this guy gets pinched out pretty hard. I originally thought that this was going to be a hard bunker to dig someone out of, but I actually don't think it is. Again, it might change on the actual layout because I can't push myself into these bunkers at all. So it might be different. And then coming into this next bunker, what's going to stop me? So heads up, definitely, obviously. And then this can right here, this center-ish can is going to stop me. Obviously anybody in this 50 would stop me, but I just don't suspect anybody's going to go there by the time I'm making this move. And actually, this gap as well would stop me, this snake gap. Now, if they're shooting crossfield, they're not shooting heads up, so that's something to also be aware of, because you can definitely call, we call it turtle, or we used to call it turtle, but you could say, you know, snake one's turtle, which just essentially tells the guy's heads up on the snake, hey, you're essentially fighting a 2v1 because one of your guys is shooting crossfield and not shooting at you. So if I'm able to communicate to my number one, hey, snake one is turtle, in this situation, let's say I'm stuck here, then it really is that I just have to beat this guy. I just have to beat this guy or this dude, whichever one is stopping me. I just have to get him to flinch, and then I can take the bite up to here. Again, retake over that job, or again, win the dominance and come here, and then boom, I now control this. He might still be looking cross, but now I can just sit and wait for him for a second if he decides to look heads up. Or if he still isn't looking heads up, I can come here and start doing a lot of damage. Potentially. I don't know. Didn't look like there was a ton of rewards there, but all right. Then, okay, so we established that can is what's going to stop us. So we'll look at how easy it is to survive in that can, because it might not be at all. But then if we come here, are we rewarded with anything? We're rewarded with a cross-field kill for sure. The corner guy is he's going to be getting really low and super pinched, so that's going to be a hard bunker to survive. This tower here as well is going to be really hard to survive in. But outside of that, I would kill anybody that's playing our snakeside wedge. And I would probably kill them before they noticed I was here. And this is a hard shot for them to just stay dedicated on, looking cross. So this is probably a better shot for me against them than against me, but this is still not a lot of reward here. So let's see what happens if we play on the outside. Again, heads up, I have to worry about always. But if I go low, again, I have that same crossfield corner kill that I did on the inside, so maybe I just take it outside is kind of what this looks like. And then if I come here, am I rewarded with anything? I'm actually rewarded with this wedge kill. So if you get to the wedge quick, this move right here is something you got to be worried about. I know I said this is a 50-50, but I would suspect that people are going to get to the wedge quicker, the snake wedge, than they are going to get to this mini wall on the Dorito side. I think they're going to get to the snake side wedge faster. So this is if I make this move in response and shoot, I will kill this guy for sure. I still am rewarded with the same crossfield corner kill. I would not wrap and look at the back center from here. I would just ignore them, and then again, heads up. Now I'm inset a little bit from the tape, which makes this guy's positioning a lot more dangerous. Because especially like sometimes what happens is when people look on the inside and they go to line up in their bunker, they step out. Like this is where I would plant myself on my knee, but I'm actually too far out because this guy is outside of me. So I would have to just be very aware of that. That when I shoot inside, I got to line up here, and then I can take this over the top shot, or I can just take the snap. But this is actually an interesting thing as well. Let's see if this nipple provides any interesting angles. It does provide like a surprise shot against the can. I wouldn't take this shot. Probably I would ignore that guy and making sure my number two behind me is keeping them contained, and then I would just go low and kind of crawl up here. If I get to their side, now I'm definitely rewarded with this kill. Was I rewarded at any point before that? Nope. I can't see that Dorito. I can't see that Dorito, that snakeside Dorito, until I get to their wall, and then this guy is definitely dead. Interesting enough, this guy has superior positioning than me in the sense that he is completely protected, and I am not at this point. So if they're super dug in on the snake, and they're kind of dug in here, you really need to have the tape controlled so that when you make this move, you can control them here. But you are on a time limit, right? If I make this move and they're still alive in that snake cake, I need to make something happen or I'm in trouble. Otherwise, if there's nobody heads up from me, I apply an insane amount of pressure on this can guy now. And I have a lot of options to do that. I can come up over the top. I can go out low. As soon as I get him to flinch, I can step out and come here. And now I'm headhunting on all of the snake side stuff. This guy in the cake is dead for sure. This guy's gone. This mini wall is gone. The corner's already gone. So interesting that I have more kill potential from this wedge, it looks like, than I do even in their side on the mini wall. You know, every time I walk layouts like this, I'm making several assumptions. One, I'm making the assumption that by the time I make it to this point, I've probably either killed somebody here, heads up, which opens up these moves a lot more, especially on the outside, or Just that the only kills I'm going to get on people are ones that they can't avoid, right? But it's also possible that like people are they're kind of far back from their bunkers. It's always possible. So that your kill potential is actually, you might be getting more kills in some of these moves than I'm giving you credit, simply because people might not be playing super, super tight in their bunkers. That's always an option. That's always a possibility. But otherwise, like I said, I would say that my initial impressions are that you're actually rewarded more by making it up the field on the snake side than you are making it up on the Dorito side. However, I do think that the Doritos provide a ton of essentially like fortification. I think you provide a lot of like checks to the snake side by getting farther up the field on here. And you do have a really strong counter. If somebody's able to get into this wedge on the snake, you provide a pretty insane counter by going here and shooting at them. So that means that as you snake guys, if you're not sure what's going on in the Doritos, as soon as you make this move, the first shot you should shoot is this cross. The first shot you should look for is if anybody is in that mini wall. If they got there before you did, then you will get the kill. But the problem is that I think this move is harder to make than this move is. And so if you just as a Dorito player just kind of chill here until you either kill a guy in front of you or you hear they're in the 50 snake. As soon as you hear they're in the 50 snake, I would be trying to make your move here to then pluck him out. That would be my response. Dharma Daniel, welcome. Let's look at the center-ish pushes real quick, and then we'll kind of give our assessment, and then we'll be done. So again, you can't see your heads up in this can. We established that you're going to be hard-pressed to survive if they're in that Dorito 40 on the snake. This can in the center, which we established can be used as a pretty solid blind to shoot this gap and this gap. Coming here, then if you look cross, let's see. You have a really solid cross field hold. So remember how we said the puzzle is to get to this mini Dorito and either go inside or out into the snake? All of those are kind of, or any progression on the snake side is halted if you hold this cross field shot for days. So that's interesting. We'll have to look at what the number 3 could do if that's the case. So... because what might happen is that even though there's more rewards on the snake side, if you can make it, it's a lot harder to move up the field because you have this insane crossfield shot. So we'll look at what that might imply for the number 3. If you decide to look heads up, it's not great, it looks like. Yeah, you don't have really great heads up stuff. If they're already in the Doritos and you're looking heads up, you're in trouble, in my opinion. If you, as a response to that, push up to this mini wedge... yeah, I wouldn't want to be here. You could hold this as a gap to like surprise somebody, but man, I would not want to be in this mini wedge if there's somebody in that Dorito. Even this one behind it is not a great bunker you can't really stop that bunker because you have to get so low. What about this inside stuff? I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't go to that mini wedge. Okay. Well, let's look at this actual center move. So you've got cross, like we said. You've got heads up on the snake. If you actually make this route, why would you? What would be the reason that you would make this move? Let's look. Well, I think here's what I think. I think what's going to happen a lot is that, like I said, people are going to play this gap and they're going to send their number 1 out somewhere in these bunkers, okay? And I also think they're going to send their number 2 here a lot. So if off the break you kill this guy, I think you could take this inside route on the snake side, assuming you check this guy off that was in front of you. And if you make this route, you might be able to lock down anything that's going on this Dorito side and essentially contain them in this gap. Contain them in this zone. Now, the only thing that would have to happen, yeah, now that I say that, I'm not sure. Because if you're only killing the number 2, you might kill the number 1, actually. I think if you get Tiger 2, if you get Tiger 2 off the break on this side, I think this is a really solid move to come here and then control. Even though you're kind of already on the snake side of the field, If you prevent them from breaking out of this back center, and then they've got like a number 2 here and a number 1 somewhere in these bunkers, man, this is a super, super solid bunker to be in. You just have to beat them on the side that they don't exist in faster than they can get up to this side. Otherwise, you could look that way. But as soon as you look this direction, you give up whatever containment you had on this guy in the back center. He could easily break out, and then you're now in a really bad spot. So, let's look at this bunker here really quick in more detail. So, you essentially are doing the same thing as this bunker back here, but you're in a much more dangerous position. Again, you have huge gaps that you can hold in. So, can you survive the Doritos? If you get low, you could. Yeah, if you get really low, you could probably survive whatever is happening in the Doritos, except if they get to this Dorito too. So the other alternative is, let's say, for example, off the break, you're shooting cross and the number 2 to your left is shooting cross. Okay, so you're shooting this way. You've got somebody to your left shooting this way. If you hear, we say Sally or Lucy, Ricky. So Lucy is left, Ricky is right. If we say Ricky, it means we killed somebody off the break on the right side. And the reason we say that is because we usually kill them on the run as opposed to killing them out of a specific bunker. So it's easier to say Ricky. So if I say Ricky, it's probably that we killed the runner. And if that's the case, in my peripheral vision, I should be able to see how far the widest guy made it. And if that's the case, as soon as I hold this crossfield shot and then maybe I drop it for a second, I shoot heads up to shoot at this guy as I make my move up here. And as soon as I do, I can then wrap and either contain him if he's somehow still in the gap or still in that dead zone. Otherwise, if I pull back a little bit and I get really low, this is a really, really hard gap to get out of if I'm playing this bunker. Now, the biggest thing that will break that open is if they, if the number 2 in response decides to match you and come run you down, right? If you go here and then you hold, what side did I say? This side. If they decide to come here and they see that or hear it and they could match you and run you down on either side, that would be how that point would break open. But even if that's the case, you didn't lose anybody off the break, you're now playing a 4v3, which is great. So a 4v3 with nobody contesting the snake side. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't care to explain it too much because I don't want to get down the rabbit hole too fast. All right, so with that all said, I think here's how things are going to go. Again, your mileage may vary. I might be totally wrong, but this is kind of... we needed to look at what the number 3 can do. So the number 3 from here has a really bad gap, really bad angle to stop anybody getting into the Dorito. Bad angle just because I don't think it's great. And you really can't see anything snake except for this little teeny sliver of a gap. You have a lot of overhead pressure. So, what I think the number 3 is going to be a really, really hard position to play. But here's what I think you could do. So I think the number 3 has several choices to make. I think if you do play the back center, you should really just shoot over the top back at home. I think that's your first 3, 4, maybe even all your paint. But whatever you just decide to do after that is probably going to be more on the Dorito side because you have more angles. It looks like. That's actually not true. You could shoot. Well, can you? Can you see the corner? If I were to be here and shoot up the middle, I can't see anything snake way. So I can only shoot Dorito way. Okay, so I think as the number 3, I think your field of influence is kind of this box right here. I think you kind of own this box if you can survive the heads up battle. I think if you shoot heads up and then shoot for the guy outside, I think you're good. Otherwise, the back center is probably not a bunker you want to be in. So if you decide you still want to hold the same jobs where this guy off the break holds the cross field and this guy uses this can to hold the cross, just in the breakout, then you can make a decision on, do we want to push the Dorito side or do we want to push the snake side? If it were me, it seems like there's going to be 3 people here and 2 people here most of the tournament. This is just so little room to survive out in. And even like we said, even if you make it up to their their side, their mini W on their side, you're not rewarded with a ton of kills, which means this side of the field just needs to survive, and this side of the field is where the puzzle is needing to be solved and where you need to put a lot of pressure and push. But what that always inevitably means is that if you kind of have a catastrophe on this side where you get a Tiger 1 or a Tiger 2 off the break, then this point you can easily just lose the point right away because you've got 3 guns looking this direction in many cases, right? So I think this side is the push, this side is the hold, push, and I think these cross shots are really strong. I think you're going to see that most of the tournament. And again, if you don't want to play the back center, which I don't think is a great bunker, I think the only reason you play the back center is to apply pressure heads up and in these gaps. So what you could do is you could have 2 people essentially targeting this guy. You could have 2 people targeting this guy, which we said is a high value target. If you kill this guy off the break, as we established, you now have a 2v1 on this side of the field, which even is going to be really hard to stop. And this is how you kind of win on that side, I feel like, is targeting this dude. I think this guy is a guy you shoot at most of the tournament. Otherwise, you can kick out your number 3 to come here. Your number 2 can either play the dead zone right next to him, which might have to be the case, or you can just put him into the cake. So this is your number 3, this is your number 2, and then you force your number 1 to make some kind of risk play, either here or here. Or they could run and gun to the corner. That's kind of the 3 options they have. I guess one thing we should look at before we end is what sort of routes you could take if guns aren't looking the way that they should. You could actually make it to this juice box now that I'm seeing it. Is the Tiger bunkers or gaps? So Tiger is kills. So Tiger 1, Tiger 2, that's kill 1, kill 2. The reason that people say Tiger, if you've heard that a lot, is because it carries much better than kill. If you're shouting kill 1, kill 2, it does not carry nearly as well as Tiger. There's a sharp t that people can hear as opposed to k that's coming from a very different part of your mouth. So diamond hands and rocket ships. I like the name, by the way. Okay, so the one thing I didn't actually consider is your number 1 could actually make, you could call it the number 1, the number 2, doesn't really matter. But you actually have a really solid route. So if your number 2 is here, your number 1 is here. Oh, let's look at it from a different angle. So something I didn't actually look at is, so your number 1's here, number 2's here. If off the break, your number 2 kind of plays this gap cross and this guy goes here, that's really solid. That's a really solid move, because now what happens is you draw the guns really low. You draw the guns incredibly low. Let's say your number 3 is playing here, and then your number 2, once he's done playing this dead zone, fans out and takes this Dorito, which I would do. I probably wouldn't go to the corner if I did this, but I would go here, and then I would... The only thing is that kind of sucks. Are you controlled by the same gap? Kind of. You're kind of controlled by the same bunker here, which sucks, but you're just you're so far away from each other. But that's actually a pretty cool route you could take. Is this one right here, making this juice box viable. You know, you always have the options to go here, but that route is going to be super hard to survive, incredibly hard to survive. And in fact, it would be really hard to run too, because you kind of have to, you know, jolt sideways. So I'm not sure that's the play, but you do have this gap right here. So again, we established you do have this gap or this route you could take. So, okay. I guess let's look at this juice box real fast. Lots of heads-up control. Crossfield. Ooh, you actually have a really, really good... Hey, $5 from Diamond Hills. I don't know why my notifications are not making noises. But, dude, $5. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Oh, there it is. There's the sound. Thanks, buddy. Am I doing any match reviews today? I'm going to do my match review tomorrow. I just need more time to work on other stuff, but I will do a match review tomorrow. I'm going to review the finals probably. Okay. This is actually really solid. Super solid move. So this is like an ultra target of this guy. But if you have your number 2 here shooting that cross shot and then you send your number 1 here, then you almost guarantee this kill. Which again, if this happens, you force your number 2 next point to look for that route, right? Which then alleviates the pressure that you were going to take here. Okay? Because again, if we force them as their number 2s to come here and shoot heads up for that route, which I don't think you would do twice at all, then it means that they're not shooting this crossfield shot, which makes this move a lot more doable. I'm building a team and need all the info I can. I appreciate the knowledge. Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you. So, okay. Any questions before we finish? We spent about an hour, a little bit more. Oh, excuse me. Sorry for the stretch. But yeah, I'll be reviewing the finals tomorrow. And then at some point between tomorrow or before Wednesday, I'm hoping to have a masterclass on coaching released. But we'll see. So, sweet. Well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. That's it, guys, then. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. You guys know all that stuff. Thanks again for the donation, man. I really, really appreciate it. I will be live tomorrow, probably around the same time, going over the finals between Dynasty and Tampa Bay Damage. So be on the lookout for that. And otherwise, again, I am gone Wednesday until next Monday. So I'm going to try to do just like... originally I was going to try to do one long stream twice a week. I was going to do like 2 or 3 hours. I'm not sure that's actually the solution. I think it might make more sense to just do a 1 hour stream like every day. But we'll see. I'm still kind of playing around with it. But thanks guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.